Hi, everybody. My name is Jamie, and I'm here with Nathan and Chris.
Oh yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
We're here to talk to you about News of the World, a brand new Tom Hanks film. It was based in the 1800s. Tom Hanks plays a character that goes from town to town telling everybody the news. And on his travels, he finds a young girl and tries to bring her home. So, Nathan, what did you think about it?
Thought it was competent. I liked the idea. I just thought it was very bland. There was no arc to the story or the characters at all, I thought. We'll get into more detail, I suppose, later on, but passed on to Chris. What did you think?
Um, to be honest, and it might sound a little harsh with what I say, but it's the closest I kind of can express how I feel. I kind of got to the end and I felt it was a whole lot of nothing. It's just one of those movies that looks really nice on the outside. You've got Tom Hanks. You've got a heartwarming story when you break it down. But when you really get into the movie, there was nothing there. It was like they didn't want to take any chances, if that makes sense.
And it's strange because it's Paul Greengrass as the director who made Born Identity, and he also did, I don't know if you saw a couple of years ago, United 93.
The Bourne Identity. That's new. Because I didn't think that... Because there's that action scene, isn't there, where he's fighting the three guys that track him down.
That carries on for like 15 minutes.
It just
just
goes
Yeah.
on. It wasn't just me, so it just kind of it would
drags
make sense if that was a team throughout the movie and they were trying to get. But the fact that it just kind of happened there, it drags on, and then we're into something different.
It was a complete separate part of the book, or the film at least, and it was just 20 minutes of the film that kind of was by itself and it didn't go anywhere. And I thought bringing in like the child sex was kind of fucking weird. It was very blunt, and there wasn't like, maybe if earlier on in the film you had seen a brothel and there was a child in there or something.
It was just kind of like we just meet these lads. They want her. Then we're straight into them chase. We just get it. Just all of this suspense or drama, whatever you want to call it, all of a sudden, and it drags out, and then it's over. And it was just. I felt it was kind of weird.
Yeah, and it did just come straight out of nowhere as well. Like, they just see each other across a room, and then all of a sudden they're chasing after them. Like, it's just really a random thing that just happened.
Like, I haven't said, like, I know we're kind of like dragging on the film at the moment, but like there is things that maybe not to like, but like a lot of the stuff is competent at the very least. It's shot well. Everyone who's acting in it does a great job. It's just there's no arc to any of the characters or anything. The story doesn't go anywhere.
No, it was... I found it very predictable anyway, because, like, at the very end, like, you knew it was going to end like that, where he dropped him off, then went back and picked her up and whatnot.
There was going to... When I was watching, I was like, this is only going to go two ways. Either he drops her back and he gets to change her heart and he ends up minding her himself, or he dies trying to protect her. They're the only two things that were running through my mind when I was watching it. And of course, the first one happened.
Like I said, I did like the concept. It kind of, I don't know if you've seen it, and I haven't seen it a while either, so I might be getting confused. There was a film about 10 years ago with Denzel Washington called The Book of Eli, where he went from like...
Oh, what a movie!
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say it's not great. I wouldn't say. He,
but predictable.
Yeah, but it's like the same thing where he goes from town to town with the Bible and he does all this stuff. And I think there was a child in that as well he has to protect. Like, it's been a while since I've seen it. But
Yeah, but wasn't he, like, bulletproof?
I don't think that's true. I'm pretty sure he dies at the end of the film, Jamie.
Yeah, but, like, wasn't there, like, that thing where he was just gunning people down whenever they were trying to kill him for the book?
Oh, yeah. It's not great.
Yeah.
I
I have this vague notion of him being bulletproof.
He wasn't bulletproof.
Well, he's done so many of those kind of movies. So Equalizer, Man on Fire. I haven't seen the Book of Eli in 10 years, but
I haven't seen it. Yeah, I haven't seen.
I just vaguely remember the Book of Eli because I was so young when I watched it.
It's the same thing where I think anyway. Like, they both have like a pretty interesting concept. They just don't necessarily do anything with it. Like, I love the idea of someone going town to town reading the news to other people. They were just never able to like capitalize on that idea.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was actually a good one because there was actually a good scene in that like actually one of my favorite, actually my favorite scene of the film, where he basically uses a story to rise the people up against what was his name?
Yeah, against like the capitalistic overlord of that town, which I thought
Yeah,
that was fine as well. I just thought it was very ham-fisted. Like I knew what was going to happen the minute your man asked him to read the newspaper.
mm.
I don't know. I just thought it was very predictable, the film.
And we went from the three lads into that, didn't we? Into
Yeah.
the town,
Yeah.
and it was and then we had the sandstorm, which lasted what, a minute, and
Yeah.
I just
Yeah, that was
it was
weird.
just the way things. Maybe the movie needed to be longer. I don't know.
No, it did absolutely did not need to be longer. No.
No.
It was nearly 2 hours. It was 2 hours and 15 minutes.
2 hours, yeah, it was 2 hours.
Yeah, it was 2 hours.
Was it 2 hours?
But you wouldn't if
Yeah, an hour and
if
59
you
minutes.
felt a little bit more connected with the characters, and if you had if you just did the suspense correctly, you wouldn't feel the 2 hours. I don't think.
Yeah. Oh no, you wouldn't. No, but there was no suspense, and you knew where the film was going the whole time.
They didn't create it, but you were supposed to feel it.
And well, maybe he did, but I know I never felt a relationship grow between the two leads, between Tom
Yeah,
Hanks
I
and the
was
girl.
gonna ask you
It was
about
like
that,
it
'cause
was
I
like
didn't-
it was like bang, they have instant chemistry and relationship, and I just thought it was weird. Like, give Tom Hanks maybe a bit more of a backstory. Like maybe he has a son that was killed during.
Well, they tried to
the
do
war.
that. Like they used his wife in that kind of sense.
But the wife was really weird. Like they mentioned her, I think, very early in the film, where he takes off the locket and he sees the photo, and immediately I was like, oh, she's fucking dead. Like, she's obviously dead. But they dragged it out until like the last 15 minutes of the film, where they
Yeah, because he ended
she's
up
dead.
like meeting your one at the was it saloon restaurant, whatever.
It's Luke.
And like she mentions her as if she's still alive. You know, like that, like the way they're talking about her as if she was still alive. So that kind of made me go, okay, maybe she's not dead.
No, it was very obvious. I thought.
But they don't know at that point, do they? It's only when he
Tom
needs.
Hanks does. No, Tom Hanks does.
Oh, did he? Yeah, yeah. I
He-
thought he
he
was
has-
told that she died of cholera by near the end.
No, so see, this is a thing that the film isn't very good at communicating these plot points. So it's when he's in the room, he found out while he was a captain in the war, in the Civil War, and he just hadn't returned to the town since to visit the grave. But yeah, the communication of the plot, I think, is something that is really bad in the film. Like, pretty early, I was like, okay, the little girl, okay, she's German, and then about 20 minutes later, I was like, is she Indian? And I was like, why is she speaking Native American or Cherokee or what? I don't know what the language is, obviously.
Cherokee.
I was confused for so long. I was like, is she supposed to be Native American? Like, they didn't explain it until later in the film. They probably did, but they just didn't do it very well. It wasn't till they got to like her aunt and uncle where I was like, okay, this is what happened. That her family was killed. Which is, I don't know. The film is like
It does. It kind of. They do explain it at the point where he finds the driver of her. When they're transported of
lynched and everything. Yeah.
That's when he finds out that she's a Western girl that was captive
By Indians and
by Indians, and then the Indians were slaughtered by the Westerns, and now she's back
Yeah.
to being an orphan twice.
like Tom Hanks is, I'm pretty sure, he was a captain for the South Civil War. Am I wrong in saying that?
Yeah, I think you're right, yeah.
Which is like, why would you make the protagonist of your film someone who fought for slavery? Is that not weird? That's the first thing.
I'm sorry. All I remember is that he was like
He has
was
to have
in
been.
the Texas place,
But
or whatever they're called.
He has to have been, because throughout the whole film they talk about the North, and they make it seem as though he was a captain for the South during the war, or during the Civil War. And the second thing is, the film has a weird relationship with Native Americans. I think you see him in the first time you see a Native American is in the sandstorm, where they're like walking by, and it makes them seem very mystical, which is fucking weird in 2020 that they would do that. and
Yeah.
and then like 20 minutes later, they're like, well, Native Americans slaughtered their family. And it's a really weird tonal imbalance throughout the whole film between what they're actually trying to say.
Well, okay.
Oh no, hold on.
So-
Actually, Tom Hanks is definitely a Southern captain for the Civil War, because he mentioned that he had surrendered to the North when he met the general when they found the little girl. So he definitely was.
I just remember him like saying that he was getting punished for everything that he did. So that does come around like in my head from what I remember. He does
And they
say
said
that he
that-
was that.
And they say that in the last 15 minutes of the film, as if
Yeah.
it means anything. Like,
The film grade was lovely, but I just don't think it was the right grade for that film. I thought it was, to me, and I'm sure many would disagree, that it gave a dark tone to the film, which the
that
film
wasn't there. Yeah.
wasn't. Do you know? Now, it was a lovely look, a lovely grade, but it didn't. I just felt it wasn't for the right film. And straight away, I was getting pulled in and pulled out of the movie. I was like, are we supposed to be doing this? Are we supposed to be doing that? Another thing that did that to me was the camera work. Now, I know the director is famous for the shaky camera and stuff, but there was times there I was like, what the fuck is going on? Especially that scene in the cart, and all of a sudden you're going back and forth like nothing. I was like, it didn't need that. It should have been steady there.
There's also bringing up the camera work. There was also a point when he goes back to get the girl at the end of the film. There's this point, and the back and forth. I don't know if they were on tripods. They probably handheld, but they were pretty steady. But towards the end of that scene, there's like a zoom on Tom Hanks. And
I noticed that.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was.
And it's
digital
not like
or-
you went from focus on her to him. You're focused on him, and then it does this weird in.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was a decision they made in post, which would be very strange, or if it was a decision that was made on set, in which case just redo the shot.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Totally agree with that. Same with I remember there was a shot where you come in. Do you know when the part where you see like I don't know if they were cows or buffaloes. I can't remember now. There was
Buffalo. Yeah.
hordes of them or whatever, and then you cut to a shot of him walking, and it just goes shaky all of a sudden. It just goes shaky. It goes handheld all of a sudden, and it was just so like the rest. It just took me out. I was kind of like, hold on, what the. It didn't fit. That didn't need to be there. Like
There was a couple of shots in there when they're being chased that was clearly like just them in behind like a green screen trying to get those shots of them looking back.
Yeah.
And they were really out of place because the whole like everything else was just shot on set clearly, but just those little shots of them looking back.
Some of the like digital effects and CGI were not great in the film. Even if you notice, I don't know if they were in Austin or Dallas, whichever it was. You can see, like, in the background, there's obviously a couple of constructed sets and buildings, but behind them, there's, like, CGI buildings, and they stand out a lot. I don't know if they're miscolored or...
For me, it was the cows at the very beginning. You know, the herd that's behind them when he's taking them to the officers, taking the girl to the officers. Cows behind them, when they're walking into the crowd, they were fully CG, and you could tell. Like
it's like they tried to be real creative and adventurous with a movie that didn't ask for it, like, or didn't need it.
Which I would I could overlook kind of the weird camera and cinematography choices if the film was anyway interesting, you know. If I thought that the weird cinematography was trying to convey some sort of meaning or message. But it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
It was just the style of the director.
It was nice. Like, do you remember in the canyon shot where he had already killed the first two lads and the other fella was chasing the two of them. They were in the canyon and he was on top. There was, again, basic, but I appreciate, just the kind of the shots of kind of spinning around from the inside the canyon, and you just see the lovely colours of the canyon and the blue sky and stuff. There was some really nice shots in there and stuff.
Yeah, like the shots of like the vistas and the environments are like.
Which isn't again, I was reading into a lot of people like that's not the correct environment for the place that they were trying to portray. It looks nice, but that's not what it looks like.
It looked more like Arizona than Texas.
Yeah.
But I thought the music, the score, I thought that was not there. I thought it was very bland. Again, like that you can.
I don't even remember.
When you're doing a Western film, it should feel grand and big.
It should get you.
There should be a snap to it. That's just not in the film.
What did you think of the comic relief points? You know, when she's going through all of his stuff and throwing it all over the place.
Okay, like, this is another thing about like the disconnect with Native Americans. It's like, okay, maybe they don't know what coffee is. Okay, maybe she doesn't know what fucking sugar is. That's ridiculous. Stop. It's like there's comedy and then there's stupidity, and it just doesn't make sense. Maybe that's just me. I don't know.
Is that what you felt from like the spoon? Maybe because like I don't know. Like they would clearly know how to use utensils like that, right? Like
well, no.
No.
The utensils thing I didn't mind that much because if she was living with this kind of native nomadic tribe, that's fine.
I was supposed to get the idea that they're animal. I couldn't think of a better word. But basically, animals. You know, like wilderness kind of people.
Yeah, uncivilized. Yeah, like that's a disconnect the film has between what it's portraying. I don't know. Strange film.
It was a strange film.
Yeah.
Now, again, back to your question, Jamie. I was on the fence about that. As soon as that started happening, I couldn't decide whether I enjoyed it or if it was out of place. Again, the comedic going through all his stuff, and I did enjoy it, but again, it was weird for the film. I don't know. It was it was a strange one. I found it amusing. Tom Hanks makes it amusing. She plays her part. She's good.
No, like that's what we're saying. Like the acting is very good in the film, or it's serviceable at the very least. But it's the writing. It's that one scene of comedy. It's supposed to express their relationship throughout the whole film. Like that 2 minutes in, like, is that supposed to set up their relationship? And it's just weird. Like, I know they do set up their relationship throughout the film a bit more with, like, he starts singing the song, learn her language a small bit, but it feels very forced and it's not natural.
Now that's funny because when he started singing her song, to me that just seemed like, because they were going through the part of country that was run by the Native Americans, right? So to me, it
wasn't run by Native Americans. They just lived there.
They were in there. Yeah, they were in that area. In my head, they were only singing that song to make the Native Americans think that, you know, they were one of them passing through or something. That's what I thought his mindset in that scene was.
If it was, they did not convey it well. Possibly it was, but I didn't get that. But even if what you're saying is true, that just hollows out their relationship more.
And the fact at the end of the sandstorm, she just wanders over to them, grabs a horse. Yeah. They're totally okay with that, and say, "Here, just take a horse."
Presumably, she did speak to them in whatever the language.
But it was fucking strange after an hour and a half of the movie of.
But this is what I'm saying about, like, the weird mysticism they try to bring to Native American culture. And it's just weird. It's like, it's 2021. You don't need to do that. And it's I don't know, it feels gross, kind of, I don't know.
How do we go from the Indians came and slit my parents' throat and took me, to them being slayed by the Westerns, to them being totally cool with Everton, you know, after this, you know, we need a horse, can I get your horse, me and my Western buddy here need to get out of here. No bother. Yeah. It was just What?
there's a big distance throughout the whole film as to what is going on in the
That
world.
kind of makes me
Backstory
think
needs
now
to
that
be
you,
more
like-
backstory. Like, why?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
It's just Everton's left in limbo. Like, I don't know.
when, now that you've mentioned that, I'm thinking back. Like, how old do you think she was when all that happened? When she got taken by
She
the
must
Native
have been-
Americans?
Okay, so when they go to the abandoned house, which is where I presume she's from, she's sleeping in a bed. So I'd imagine she's probably between 3 and 5.
Right. Okay.
And then, so maybe she's forgotten her. Well, we know she hasn't completely forgotten her parents because she has flashbacks to when it happened. But presumably she's forgotten most of it and has grown up as a Native American, and then they're slaughtered. So she feels more in contact with them.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes more sense in that ring. But then she starts having flashbacks without us even seeing them, right? Because they're just talking back and forth, and she just randomly starts spouting German. Do you remember that when he's in the
I
car?
was actually okay with that. That was like the 1 minute or the one point of subtlety throughout the whole film, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Like, I was happy that we didn't have to like sit through the flashbacks of her family getting killed, because it just would have added another fucking 15 minutes onto the film. Again, I really, really did like the concept of this person going from town to town, spreading news. I just thought it was interesting. I actually thought it could have worked better as like a post-apocalyptic piece. I think you could have said a lot more.
Are you? Do you reckon by having it set in the West and stuff like that, you're kind of tied down? You're bound to. You're bound to just having, like, say, bandits involved, the Indians' relationship and the Westerns' relationship. If you did a post-apocalyptic thing, there's a lot more you can do. There's a lot more you can do with the story there.
Sure, yeah, I read a book a few years ago called Station 11, and it's kind of like this. It's about a performing troupe who go from town to town and they perform Shakespeare, and it kind of reminded me of that idea of bringing something from the past to the future and making sure this tradition lived on, and that's also getting an adaptation this year, I think. So, but that idea, I think, would have worked better in like a post-apocalyptic world, where it's like maybe you have people who have grown up with social media and are used to having their news instantly. I don't know. It's just setting it in the West. I'm sure there is some truth to the story in that there was people who went from town to town doing that. I just think setting it in like a post-apocalyptic just would have brought more to the story, but that's not what they did. So
I think, like, the second conflict with the lads that are running the town. I was like, I didn't hate your man. Do you know? Tom Hanks and your one strolls into town. They come out from behind the bushes. They start, interrogating them. Ask what their business here and stuff like that. It seemed quite normal for especially for a time back then.
yeah,
We own this place. We want to know it, and it just, if we were supposed to feel that the lads were in danger and that we weren't, that your man was an evil man, we didn't like him. It wasn't strong enough. They didn't
yeah.
build that right.
But like that whole, like that, how long was that? Maybe 20-25 minutes, that whole section of the film. But
Was it even that long?
It was something like that. But like that was like the only part of the film that had any substance to it. It was clearly a criticism of capitalism and how influential people, like, your man is clearly analogous to Donald Trump, where he's using the media to spread his own stories and news. Like, that's clearly what that section of the film is supposed to be. But it's 20 minutes of the film, and it goes nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I felt anyway.
Yeah.
That it was just there.
Yeah. Again, it would have worked a lot better if that was the whole film.
I totally. There is definitely something there for the film. Like it's the story isn't all that. Like there is definitely good points to the story or the idea of parts. Just the execution was not right.
Yeah, and I
Now
think
maybe
we
the
said-
book maybe the book is really good. Maybe
Is there a book?
that this is based off a book as far as I believe.
But I think we said from the start, none of us thought the film was bad. It was just incredibly bland.
Could you intertwine, like, we went from the three bandits killed them into the if you intertwine the ideas, like you've just escaped the bandits, now you're in the town and you're still in trouble because you've got these lads to deal with. You get out of town, you still have the fucking bandits to deal with.
Or, yeah. Or even, so, yeah, something like that. Or, like, maybe the bandits are involved in, like, remember, there was, like, a thing after Civil War where a lot of black people were still being captured and being forced into slavery. If they did something like that, maybe the bandits were connected to that somehow, and that was what the town was doing, and they were forcing people into labour.
Something that
like
ties them
that.
together.
Because at the moment it feels like a television show broken into 5 parts, and every part is distinct and separate, and nothing connects.
Yeah, I think so.
The book was written by Paulette Giles, by the way.
Yeah.
Maybe they tried to stay too true to the book, and you just don't create what the book created.
I can't
That's
imagine.
the end result. That nothing connects, and nothing is given enough time to actually come to the surface.
So, going from what we're saying about this film, it looks like this is the popular opinion. Everybody is saying the same thing we're saying right now. The most rating it has on Letterboxd is 3.
Anyone who's given it higher than 3 out of 5 is obviously getting paid by the production company because.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I don't think Netflix is paying people to review the film high. I don't think it has got reviewed very high.
If it was not for Tom Hanks, who, by the way, I think if you put Tom Hanks as the lead actor in something as stupid as Leprechaun, he could make it look like a half decent movie.
For sure, like after a half hour if Tom Hanks hadn't been in this film, I would have turned it off.
Has he ever done a post-apocalyptic film?
No.
I don't think he has.
No, Tom Hanks has class.
Yeah, but you guys think he'd like this film if it was made for a post-apocalyptic world instead of
Well, no,
the
not
West?
instead
It
of.
would have worked
No,
better.
no, not instead of. I just think the concept would have worked well in the post-apocalyptic world, and I think you could have. I just think you could have done a bit more with it, which I'm
By
sure
no
someone
means
has done.
is there anything memorable about Tom Hanks. There was no scene where I went, fucking hell, he's so good. It's just he's so easy to watch. And maybe that's bias of having so much respect for him, but he's just so easy to watch. It's effortless. But by no means am I saying that he was like that it's an Oscar worthy performance or anything. I'm not saying that.
This is pretty much just
Do you think
come into the
that
office
this
and do
is
the job
like,
for Tom Hanks. He's just doing
You
his
reckon?
I said Tom Hanks is just doing his job in this film. You like
Just doing his job, yeah.
There's no real excitement.
And he does it
Do you
well.
think?
yeah.
Go on, Jamie.
Do you think this is going to be winning any awards
Fuck
at
no.
all?
Absolutely not.
For me to say, but I wouldn't
It's only
be voting.
no. It can't unless it's
Well-
nominated for an Oscar in 2022. It's not going to win an award. It's not eligible for this year.
Okay. And I'd like to say I actually did find your review here, Nathan.
Thank you.
Would you like me to read it out?
I'm pretty sure I said it's. Go on.
Okay. It's like having bland soup,
Oh.
but you add some salt. Tom Hanks in this situation to spice things up. But at the end of the day, you still had to eat a bowl of bland soup.
It's true.
But
Yeah, I quite like that review.
3 stars.
Some people like salty bland soup.
Yeah.
I don't think they do. Well, apparently people are
I'm not
giving it
gonna-
4 stars. There must be.
I expected lower.
No, I think
Stars
it's
wise.
no. Because I can't. Because everything is so competent. It's kind of hard to give it less than 2.5, 3 stars. It's not like dreadful, you know. It's not fucking terrible, and it's not a superhero film. So I appreciate that.
I didn't. I wasn't on the edge of controller going, I'm going to turn this off. I watched the end, and I wanted to see the end. But when you got to the end, you just kind of went, eh.
I was just hoping for something.
It is
to happen.
what it is.
Yeah. But Tom Hanks has kind of been doing this like for the last 10 years, where he'll do a film, he's fucking great in the film is not.
Yeah. But like, you're never going to watch and go, oh Jesus, that was terrible. Like,
Funnily enough, I was always referring to him in this movie as Sheriff Woody.
Oh, classic.
Just putting that out there.
Yeah, I remember Sheriff Woody in Toy Story saying he was so happy to have served for the South, and that he wished slavery had been instilled, and maybe that's why there was no black toys in Andy's room. I don't know.
No black toys?
I don't think
no black.
So. Unless you want to count Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah, my head went straight to Mr. Potato Head. Was that they're black characters, but
I mean, he's potato, Jamie.
yeah, that's again. You're thinking that's really bad to think then at the same time. I don't know.
Don't Key and Peele play?
I'm talking about the original ones. I'm talking about the original Toy Story.
Well, I'm not saying that they were black toys in the movie, but you can clearly, by the way they speak, you know that.
Oh yeah,
you
well,
know
they're Key and Peele.
Yeah.
And there's probably a lot more we could say about. We could bash the movie. We could up the movie if we wanted. We could bash it if we wanted.
Oh, I could go in on this film, but I just don't think it's not worth it. The film is just
You've already put enough time into
it's
the
not
movie.
worth thinking about. Yeah. So Jamie, would you recommend this film?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't recommend it, to be honest with you. I am with you guys 100%. The only reason I actually wanted to watch this to begin with was because Tom Hanks is in it, and it just seemed vaguely interesting from the trailer.
You're a Hankomaniac.
In some ways, yes.
Chris, would you recommend the film?
I think I'm going to take a play from your book and say, because of the concept, I want to recommend it to people because it's a good concept. But for what it is, no, I can't go to someone and say it's a good movie. I can't, I don't have that ability. But I would like them to watch it just to kind of say, I'd like to recommend it to someone like Ian just to talk about the concept, but I couldn't recommend it to a friend who's a moviegoer and say, oh, you gotta watch this movie. That's just not gonna happen.
It shouldn't be on the top of anyone's watch list.
Yeah.
I'd recommend it if you're on a long flight somewhere.
Oh, it'll put you to sleep. Yeah.
Depends on what your other options are.
Well, I mean, if they only have Netflix, they don't have much. You know, it's this or name another film Netflix have done recently. I don't
watch Netflix movies because any Netflix movie. Not the majority of Netflix movies that I watch or I'm told to watch. Yeah, the production's quite nice, but there's nothing to the stories. Does anyone feel that way? There's nothing. It's either the writing is lacking or something's always lacking.
Yeah,
they're never blockbuster movies. They're never classics.
But just quickly, Netflix want to pump out as much content as possible for not just Western audience, but they also want it for people in Asia, people in Europe. So they're trying to pump out as much content as possible.
We need to remember that it's not just aimed at our culture anymore. They're trying to please everybody.
Which is the problem, because they're after lowering the bar of quality in terms of the stories that they're telling. Now,
Speaking of that, actually, one of a key movie in what you're saying right now. Do you remember that Michael Bay Netflix film? Or was it Six Underground? Yeah. I'm not surprised you didn't watch it. I watched it, and the first 10 minutes is one car chase.
That's Michael Bay.
But
the thing is that Netflix, the films that they produce are usually pretty bad. the ones that they like finance, but the ones that they buy from other production companies like A24, like Uncut Gems or something like that, it's always good. Like even The Irishman.
At least good, if not surpassing
But they had The Irishman.
expectations.
They had The Irishman 2
That's
years
sad
ago,
though.
so we can't forget that either. So.
Is The Dig Netflix?
I haven't watched it, but yeah, it is. Yeah.
Heard great things
Very
about
good.
The Dig, and again, I could watch it myself and go, yeah.
However you may feel about him, but I honestly feel like Adam Sandler has gotten a very good, like, a good run as with his Netflix
what?
deal, as far as I'm concerned. Like, I've actually enjoyed a lot of his films from Netflix, like Sandy Wexler. Did you ever watch that?
Sandy Wexler's a conversation we could have. It's a, yeah,
Okay, I liked Sandy Wexler. I liked Hubie Halloween for what it was. I liked it. I like my like it was literally just like a callback to all his old films. It's literally all it was. You could see all these references to it and everything. It was. I enjoyed it for what it was. In all fairness.
I'd rather watch paint dry than any of those two films.
Okay. Okay, and we shall leave it there. Thank you for anybody who's listening. This is Jamie. That's Nathan. That's Chris.
Thank you.
And we will see you next time. Bye bye.